Now we will be discussing about the derivative of trigonometric functions. And we shall start by obtaining the derivative of y equals sine x. Kasi ito yung pinaka-basic. Okay? And if you recall sa definition of the derivatives, we obtain the derivative of y with respect to x by just getting the limit of this ratio delta y over delta x as delta x approaches to 0. So we will do just that, or we will apply this definition to this function. So to do that, first we will introduce a change in x and a corresponding change in y. So our function becomes y plus delta y, that's equal to sine x plus delta x. So we'll have y plus delta y equal to, eto siya, meron tayong identity for sum and difference para sa sine. If you recall, that would be sine x cosine delta x plus cosine x sine delta x, o yung sin cos cos c na mnemonics natin. Okay? Now, if we transpose y to the other side, we'll have delta y equal to sine x cosine delta x plus cosine x sine delta x minus y, which is just equal to sine x. And pwede nating combine natin ito at ito because common yung sine x. So if I do that, if I factor out sine x, that would become, or wait, i-combine muna natin. So we'll have delta y. Unahin na muna natin yung cosine x sine delta x. Then that would be minus sine x plus sine x cosine delta x. So basically, rearrange lang ako. So ito, nilagay ko lang dito sa last. So we'll have delta y, that's equal to cosine x sine delta x. If I factor out sine x, that would be minus sine x times 1 minus, factored out na yung sine pala. So that would be cosine delta x ang may iwan. Okay? Now, if we divide all terms by delta x, the function would become cosine x sine delta x over delta x minus sine x, times 1 minus cosine delta x over delta x. And from the squeeze theorem that we discussed before, we know that, let me change this color para to recall, we know that the limit of sine alpha over alpha as alpha approaches to 0 is equal to 1. So from that, let me change this again. Okay, from that, we could say that this, if we take the limit now and let delta x approach to 0, this will approach to 1. But how about this? Ito, okay lang to kasi delta, it will not be affected by the limit because the variable here is x. So, dun tayo sa may delta x, which is this. Okay? So, how do we evaluate this or the limit of this as delta x approaches to 0? So, ito siya, if you recall, this resembles one of the identities that we know sa trigonometry. So, kung i-recall natin, if you recall, sa power reduction identity, so power reduction identity for sine, okay, napindot. Sine squared alpha, or pwedeng theta or any angle, or if we apply power reduction, this would become 1/2 times 1 minus cosine 2 alpha. Okay, so therefore 1 minus cosine 2 alpha is equal to 2 times sine squared alpha. Now if we relate that here, kung i-relate natin siya dito, sorry, ito lang. Ito, i-relate natin dito. That means, ang delta x natin is 2 alpha. So therefore, ang half of delta x would be our alpha. Okay? So that means our function becomes, i-write natin, delta y over delta x is equal to, let me copy this first, cosine x sine delta x over delta x minus, let me erase this, minus sine x times. So, ito siya again. Ito siya is 2 alpha. So, therefore, ang alpha natin is half of delta x. So, therefore, kung ito siya, i-write natin similar to this, that would become 2 sine 2 sine squared niyang, then ang alpha natin is half of delta x. That would be 1 half delta x over delta x. Okay? And etong 2 dito na factor, we could we could transfer that to the to the denominator of the denominator. So that's just simple algebra. So we'll have, let me copy this again, cosine x sine delta x over delta x minus sine x times sine, separate natin yung dalawang sine 1 half x. So, pwede natin isulat dito as sine 1 half delta x pala times sine 1 half delta x divided by delta x over 2. So, what happened was, let me erase this. What happened was, ito, transfer lang sa denominator of the denominator. Diba? Pwede. So, etong siya 2, punta siya dito. So, this becomes 1 half delta x din. Okay? And then, yung sine squared 1 half delta x, we factor that out. So, that would be sine 1 half delta x times sine 1 half delta x. Now, if we get now y prime, which is equal to the limit of this as delta x approaches 0, this would become the limit of cosine x sine delta x over delta x as delta x approaches to 0 plus, or no, minus. And then minus sine x times, limit of, and minus the limit of sine x times sine 1 half delta x times sine 1 half delta x over 1 half delta x as delta x approaches to 0. Okay. Now, from this property again, itong property again, that would approach to 1. So, therefore, this will approach to 1. And this will approach to 1 as well. Diba? So, yung may iwan dito is y prime is equal to cosine x na lang. Because this will approach to 1. Dito naman, this will approach to 1. And if delta x approaches to 0, this will approach to 0. And we know that sine 0 is also 0. So, therefore, this whole quantity will become minus sine x times 0 times 1, which is equal to 0. So, therefore, our function, the derivative of the function is just cosine x. Hence, the derivative of sine x is equal to cosine x. And if we generalize this using chain rule, we'll have the derivative of sine u, lagyan natin parenthesis dito, sine u, where u is a function of x, is just equal to cosine u times the derivative of u, which is du over dx. So these are our formulas for the derivative of sine. Okay? So for your first assignment, assignment 1, you obtain the derivative of, alam nyo na, y equal to cosine x. Then i-generalize din ninyo, sorry, takpan. Then i-generalize din ninyo as y equal to cosine u. Okay? Where u is a function of x. So this would be your first assignment. You just follow this formula para ma-practice. Or this procedure, I mean, para ma-practice. Okay, from here, you could also try getting the derivative or deriving the formula for the derivative of tangent x or tangent u, secant, cosecant, and other trigonometric functions. But for the sake of, para mas madali yung discussion natin, i-memorize na lang natin yung mga formulas. Okay? So, here are now the derivative of trigonometric functions. So, we'll start with, of course, na-obtain na natin to, sine u. That is just equal to cosine u du over dx. Then, for eto yung sa assignment nyo, you just derive this. For cosine u, that is just equal to negative u du over dx. So, memorize lang natin to. Then, if we have tangent u, the derivative of this is just secant squared u du over dx. Again, sulat natin dito, let u be a function of x. Okay? Then what else? We already have sine, cosine, and tangent. So let's proceed to the derivative of secant lang muna. Secant u. So the derivative of secant u is just secant u tangent u du over dx. So eto siya, kahit I'm just asking you to memorize. If you like to derive using the procedure that I've illustrated, you can do that. So we also have derivative of cosecant u. That is just equal to, okay, that is just equal to negative cosecant u cotangent u du over dx. So you just need to memorize that. Then also, finally, we have the derivative of cotangent u, which is the reciprocal of tangent. So the derivative of cotangent u is just equal to negative cosecant squared u, cosecant squared u du over dx. Okay, if you notice, sa functions natin, all complement ng mga functions are negative. What I mean is this. The derivative of the complement of sine is negative. Complement of secant, negative. And complement of tangent, negative. Okay, so yun yung pwede niyong tandaan. Lahat na nag-start with letter C, C which are complements, negative yung derivative niya. Okay, so you just need to memorize this in whatever way you can. Pwedeng anong mga mnemonics nyo in mind as long as you memorize these formulas. Okay, let's start solving some problems. So, problem 8.1. If y is equal to sine 5x, find y prime. So, we know that the derivative of sine u is equal to negative, is equal to cosine u du over dx. Kalimutan agad. So, ito. We just use this formula. If we let u equal to 5x, then du over dx is equal to 5. And since our function is y is equal to sine u, the derivative of that is just cosine u du over dx. So therefore, if y is equal to sine 5x, medyo detail lang muna tayo ngayon because first pa lang, y prime is just equal to cosine u, which is 5x, times d over dx, which is 5. Or we could rewrite that as 5 cosine 5x. Ganun lang siya kadali. Very easy. Okay, how about if we have this problem for problem 8.2, if r is equal to 2 cosecant 1 minus 3x, find y prime. Okay, sorry, let's find r prime. Bakit y prime? Okay, r prime. So we know that, if you recall again, so etong gamitin natin. If you recall again, the derivative of cosecant u, of course, it's a complement, so negative siya, di ba? Negative cosecant u, cotangent u, du over dx. So, ito yung ipa-follow natin na formula. Okay, so therefore, the derivative of this is just this. R prime is equal to the derivative of, 2 is a constant, so isolate natin yung 2. So, 2 times the derivative of this, which is negative cosecant u. So, yung u natin dito is this, 1 minus 3x. So, cosecant u, which is 1 minus 3x, times cotangent u, which is 1 minus 3x, times the derivative of u. So, what's the derivative of this? That is just negative 3. So, that's negative 3 times negative 3. So therefore, r prime is just equal to positive 6 cosecant 1 minus 3x times cotangent 1 minus 3x. So ganun siya kadali. So this is our answer. Okay, let's proceed to our next problem. If x is equal to secant cube 2t, find x prime. So we know that the derivative of secant u is equal to secant u times tangent u times du over dx. But in this case, ru is 2t, but yung sine u natin is raised to 3. So therefore, we need to apply the chain rule here. Diba? So we'll start with the general power rule. Okay? So to do that, to solve for x prime, let us first get the derivative of secant 2t raised to 3. So, yung mother natin is that function, secant 2t raised to 3. So, that would become 3 times secant 2t squared. Okay? Then, from there, kunin natin yung derivative nasa loob. Ito, which would be applying this. So, that would be times the derivative of secant 2t. Sige ha, para mas klaro, mas maintindihan nyo. Ito siya, yung square, ilagay natin dito. Okay, baka it will cause some confusion. So, ito. So, nag-power rule muna tayo. General power rule because naka-raise siya to 3. So, ito na yung derivative times the derivative nasa loob. The derivative of the baby. Sa lesson pa natin. Okay. So, that would be secant 2t times tangent 2t times the derivative of 2t, ito na, which is equal to 2. 2 times 2. So, therefore, x prime is equal to 6. So, ito, makombine natin to. Because secant, this would be secant squared 2t times secant 2t. So, that would be secant cube 2t times tangent 2t. So, this is our answer. Okay, suppose we have this function, y is equal to cosine raised to 4t minus sine raised to 4t. Find y prime. Okay, so ganun pa rin gagawin natin. We'll just use the general power rule for this and parang chain rule pa rin. Okay, so our solution would be y prime is equal to, let's start with this. So that would be 4 cosine cube t. Okay, so that's the derivative of the mother times the derivative of the baby. So yung baby natin dito, of course, is cosine t. Right? because this could be written as cosine t raised to 4. Pareho pa rin nga siya. Pareho lang siya. Cosine t raised to 4. So the derivative of the mother is this times the derivative of the baby, which is cosine t. The derivative of cosine is negative sine. So negative sine t times the derivative of t is 1. Okay, yun lang. Then minus, this would become 4 sine cube t times the derivative of sine, which is cosine. Cosine t, derivative of t is just 1. Ayan. So from here, we could factor out, so y prime, we could factor out 4, and also we could factor out negative sine t and cosine t, right? Let me move this a little bit. Yan. So what will be left dito is negative na factor out, 4 na factor out, yung sine at yung isang cosine. So we'll have cosine squared t. Then ito, factor out yung negative. So plus, factor out yung cosine, factor out yung sine. So factor out yung 4. So meron pang sine, sine squared t. And from Pythagorean identity, this is just equal to 1. So our final answer is just negative 4 sine t cosine t. Ganun lang siya kadali. This is our final answer. Okay, so for our second assignment, assignment 2, you solve for y, solve for y prime if y is equal to, secant and tangent. Secant raised to 4t minus tangent raised to 4t. So the same solution pa rin, you just follow. Okay? So let's proceed to problem 8-5. If y is equal to sine raised to 4x times cosine raised to 4x, find y prime. So in this case, we have a product of two trigonometric functions, sine raised to 4x and cosine raised to 4x. So of course, gagawin natin dito is we'll apply the product rule. So ganun pa rin, the same rules will apply to these trigonometric functions. So by applying that product rule, we'll have y is equal to, let's copy sine raised to 4x times the derivative of the second function, which would be, chain rule yung gagamitin natin dito because it's raised to 4. So that would be 4 cosine cube x times the derivative of cosine x, that's negative sine x. Diba? So chain rule. Again, the derivative of this is just this. Okay? Then let's proceed. Plus, copy the second factor. So cosine raised to 4x times the derivative of the first factor. That would be 4 sine cube x times the derivative of sine x, which is cosine x. Okay? So, ganun pa rin. We factor out the common factors. So, common yung 4. Okay, let's factor out 4. Common din yung cosine. Ano ba yung common na cosine? Dito, that's cosine cube. Okay, so common yung cosine cube. Tapos common din yung sine cube. Okay, sine cube. Okay, so sa first factor na negative pa siya. So negative, factor out yung 4, factor out yung cosine. So may naiwan pang sine squared. So minus sine squared x. Then plus, dito na factor out yung sine cube, na factor out yung 4. Ito, factor out yung sine cube, na factor out yung 4. Then na factor out yung cosine cube. So meron pang naiwan na cosine squared x. Okay, continue. So we'll have y prime is equal to 4. If you rewrite this as sine cube x cosine cube x, ganun pa rin naman, times, if we rearrange this, cosine squared x minus sine squared x, this is familiar na identity. Diba? So this is double angle identity for cosine. So therefore, we could rewrite that as sine cube x cosine cube x times cosine 2x because that is cosine 2x. Okay. Okay. Now, para consistent tayo, para maging consistent, or this is just to simplify. Actually, we arrive already at the derivative of y. Pero what we are doing right now is simplifying this. Okay? So, ito siya, naging cosine 2x na. Dito, if you recall then, the double angle identity for sine. So, if you recall, ito yung mga ginamit natin. Sulat ko na lang. So, if you recall, cosine 2 theta is cosine squared theta minus sine squared theta. And sine 2 theta is equal to 2 sine theta cosine theta, which resembles these first few factors. Okay. Okay. So therefore, we could say that sine theta cosine theta is equal to 1/2 of sine 2 theta, right? Right? So ito raised to 3 siya, di ba? Sine cube theta, sine cube x times cosine cube x. So if we raise to the third power both side of the equation, you'll have sine cube theta times cosine cube theta, that's equal to 1 over 2 cube, which is 8 sine cube 2 theta. So therefore, if we apply that here, this will become y prime is equal to 4 times sine cube x times cosine cube x is equal to this, or this is similar to that, which is 1 over 8 sine cube 2x times cosine 2x. So y prime now is just equal to 1/2 sine cube 2x cosine 2x. So that would be our final answer. Hashtag walang challenge. Okay, my video wasn't syncing well, so I just turned off my camera. So we'll proceed to this next problem, problem 8-6. If we have sine cosine x, find y prime. Okay? In this case, yung inapplyan ng uh, function na sine is yung cosine. That means cosine x is the angle to which sine x is applied. Okay? Diba? If we have sine theta, so nag-apply ka ng sine sa theta, so in this case, yung inapplyan mo ng sine is yung cosine. This is not multiplication. No? Just a trigonometric function, hindi siya multiplication. Okay, dito siya product rule because we are just applying sine to cosine. Or that means yung u natin dito is cosine x. Okay? So, yun yung u natin. So, yung du natin, if u is equal to cosine x, so it follows that du over dx is just equal to the derivative of cosine x, which is negative sine x. No? So, if we have y is equal to sine u, because that would this be, di ba? Cosine x is u. So, therefore, this is just y is equal to sine u. So, therefore, y prime is just equal to, what's the derivative of sine u? That is just cosine u du over dx. So, if we just substitute the values that we obtained kanina, so cosine u, so yung u natin is ito, cosine x, cosine x, times du over dx, which is negative sine x. So, times negative sine x. So, therefore, y prime is equal to negative sine x cosine x. This is our answer. Ganon lang siya kadali. Okay, so hashtag no challenge. Okay, let's try another one. If we have y is equal to the quantity 1 minus cosine theta over 1 plus cosine theta raised to 3, find y prime. Okay, in this case, combination na naman tayo ng eto, may power rule tayo, then chain rule yung baby. Diba? Okay, medyo complicated siya pero madali pa rin. So if we apply derivative of powers, so we'll have 3 times 1 minus cosine theta over 1 plus cosine theta squared. Then multiply that by the derivative ng nasa loob, the baby. So the derivative of that is just, apply lang natin yung quotient rule. So by quotient rule, we square the denominator dito. So 1 plus cosine theta squared. Sorry, cosine theta squared. Then we copy it here, 1 plus cosine theta. Then multiplied by the derivative of the numerator. So the derivative of 1 is 0 minus the derivative of cosine is negative sine. So negative times negative sine, that would be positive sine theta. Okay? Then minus, copy the numerator which is 1 minus cosine theta. So let me move this kasi wala ng space. Or just shrink this a little. Times the derivative of the denominator which is 1 plus the derivative of cosine. Derivative of 1 is 0 plus the derivative of cosine theta which is negative sine theta. Okay, then we'll have to simplify this now. So y prime is equal to 3 times, how about if I rewrite this as 1 minus cosine theta squared over 1 plus cosine theta squared. Ngayon lang. Times dito, I could factor out sine theta, right? If I factor out sine theta, this will become 1 plus cosine theta plus, because that would be negative times negative, 1 minus cosine theta divided by 1 plus cosine theta squared. Okay, so we're running out of space. That would be equal to, eto dito, cancel out siya. So 1 plus 1 is equal to 2. So we'll have 3 times 2, 3 times 2. This would become 2 sine theta, diba? So, yung 2 dito, multiply lang dito. So, 6 na dapat dito. So, 6 sine theta times 1 minus cosine theta squared over 1 plus cosine theta raised to 4. So, we could answer, or we could express our answer like that. So, this would be our answer. Okay, for our problem 8-8, this is an optimization problem, pero applyan natin ng trigonometric functions. So, a wall 10 feet high is 8 feet from a house. Find the length of the shortest ladder that will reach the house when one end rests on the ground outside the wall. So, ito yung situation natin. We have a wall 10 feet high. So, if we draw this na lang, so this is the wall that is 10 feet high. And it is 8 feet from a house. So let's say this is the location of the house or the wall of the house. Ito yung ground dito. So the location of the wall from the house, or the distance of the wall from the house, is just 8 feet. Ayan. So hinahanap natin is the shortest ladder that will reach the house when one end rests on the ground outside the wall. So we need to get the minimum length of the ladder that could reach the house na yung isang end niya is outside the wall. Okay. Let me change the size of this para ma-drawing natin na maigi. Okay? So, ito yung situation. Dapat yung one end will reach the house. So, this is the house, diba? And the other end will be outside the wall. So, meaning ganito yung ladder natin. But the question is, if that is a ladder, is that the shortest? Kasi pwede din naman ganito. Would that be the shortest? Or pwede din ganito. Would that be ganito. Would that be the shortest? Or ganito, would that be the shortest? So which of these ladder is the shortest ladder na pwede natin ilagay dyan? That will reach a house and one end at outside the wall. So let's say mag-drawing lang tayo ng isang situation. Or eto. Okay? So let's consider that. So therefore, yung ladder or the length of the ladder is our variable. Okay? So let's call this L. Again, we're getting the minimum L. So L is our variable. And what else are variables here? This distance. This is also a variable. Let's call that X. And also this distance is also a variable. Let's call that Y. Diba? Because depende kung how this ladder is inclined, yun yung mga values ng X and Y natin. Ayusin natin konti. That will be the values of X and Y. Okay? And yung constant natin dito is of course yung 10 at saka yung 8. That would be our constants there. So one other variable there is actually the angle of inclination ng wall, di ba? So kung mas maliit yung inclination the angle of inclination of the ladder. So the smaller the inclination of the ladder, it seems that mas longer siya. Ganun din yung situation if malaki yung inclination ng ladder, 'di ba? It is too long din. So the inclination of the ladder is also a variable. Okay? So inclination, let's call that theta. Okay. And if that is theta, this is also theta. Now, what we need to minimize is the length of the ladder L. Okay? So that means we need to get L prime and equate it to 0 because this is a minimization problem. So how do we write the equation for L? So L is equal to this length plus this length. Diba? So how about if I call this length from here to here, I'll call that L1, and from here to here, I'll call that L2. So therefore, the length of the ladder is L1 plus L2. Okay. If we draw the first triangle na na-form with ng L1 and Y, no? And actually, this is 8. Okay? So how do we write the formula for L1? So, pwede natin i-disregard na lang yung Y. Kung gagamit tayong algebraic, so isalin natin yung Y. Pero since eto lang sila, that is enough to relate, pwedeng di na natin isali sa formula yung Y because that is just another unknown na di na kailangan. So, what is the relation between the angle of a right triangle, yung angle niya dito, the adjacent side and the hypotenuse? So that would be cosine. We know that cosine theta is equal to adjacent over the hypotenuse. Diba? So therefore, if you want to solve for L1, that is just equal to 8 over cosine theta, or 1 over cosine, that's cosecant. So that is secant, 8 secant theta. So therefore, L1 is equal to 8 secant theta. Then let us look at L2. For L2, ito yung na-form na triangle. So this is L2, this is still theta, and the opposite is 10 feet. Okay? So may x tayo dito, but you don't need to get to involve x because ito pa lang this angle and 10 is enough na pwede natin i-relate. So what's the relationship between in a right triangle between the opposite side of an angle and the hypotenuse? That would be sine. So sine theta is equal to opposite over hypotenuse. So therefore, L2 is equal to 10 over sine theta. And the reciprocal of sine theta is cosecant. So we'll have L2 is equal to 10 cosecant theta. So therefore, this is plus L2, which is 10 cosecant theta. So this is now the equation for the length of the ladder. Ang variable natin is just theta. Okay? So if we now get L prime, and we know that L prime now, by this, L prime is actually dl over d theta. So if we get L prime, we just get the derivative of these two sums. So 8 is a constant times the derivative of second. So we know the derivative of the second is secant theta tan theta, tangent theta, times the derivative of theta over theta, d theta is just 1. So ito yun siya from our previous formulas na I showed you kanina. Okay, so dapat memorize na to by now. Plus the derivative of this 10 cosecant theta is just copy the constant, then derivative of cosecant theta, which is negative cosecant theta cotangent theta. Okay, times d theta over d theta is just equal to 1. Then let's equate this to 0. So this would become 8 secant theta tangent theta. So how about if I just transpose this to the other side? Kasi negative naman siya. Para positive siya doon sa other side. So that would become equals 10 times cosecant theta cotangent theta. Then let's simplify this. Okay, pwedeng ganito. Secant is 1 over cosine theta and tangent is sine theta over cosine theta. That is equal to 10 times secant is 1 over sine theta cosine theta over sine theta. Okay, then what will happen? This would become 8 sine theta over cosine squared theta. That's equal to 10 cosine theta over sine squared theta. Then let's simplify this further, or pwede nating cross multiply. That would be 8 sine cube theta is equal to 10 cosine cube theta. So therefore, kung exchange natin siya, let's move cosine cube theta to the other side and this to the other side. So this would become sine cube theta over cosine cube theta. That is equal to 10 over 8. Tama ba? 10 over 8. So sine cube theta over cosine cube theta is the same as tangent cube theta. That's equal to 10 over 8. Okay? Then, if we take the cube root of both sides, we'll have tangent theta, that's equal to the cube root of 10 over 8. So, if we want to solve for theta now, theta is equal to the arctangent of the cube root of 10 over 8. So, ma-obtain na natin yung theta as, okay, gamit tayo ng calculator. We have arctangent of the cube root of 10 over 8. So it's 47 point, let's 3 decimal place na lang, 129. So we have this value, therefore, tangent theta is equal to 47, theta is equal to 47.129 degrees. Okay, then this is the angle of inclination for the shortest or of the shortest ladder. Para shortest ang ladder, ito yung angle of inclination. The shortest ladder. So if you now want to get the length of the shortest ladder, we just need to substitute this angle to our function. So to our the equation of the length of the ladder, which is L is equal to 8 secant theta plus 10 cosecant theta. So substitute that here, that would be length is equal to 8 times secant 47.129, was it 129? Yes, plus 10 times cosecant of 47.129. So let's solve for L using our calculator. We'll have 8 times, secant is opposite, reciprocal of cosine, so that's 1 over cosine 47.129. Then add 10. So reciprocal of cosecant is sine, so we'll have sine 47.129. And our answer is 25.403 feet. Okay. So this is the length of the shortest ladder. This is our answer. Walang challenge.